started playing Minecraft in the early 2010s, then you might recognize a lot of what's to come in this video, especially if you grew up playing Minecraft Xbox 360 edition like I did. But unlike me, you might not recognize the beauty of Title Update 13 in particular. Granted, my deep connection with this specific update stems from it being the first version of Minecraft Xbox 360 edition that I played, but it had and lacked certain features that I think brought a unique Minecraft experience to the table. Over the course of these 100 days, you'll see the old features and bugs that make Title Update 13 the best experience I personally think Minecraft Xbox 360 edition has to offer, before this version got too cluttered, but long after it was too bare-boned. So stick around and you'll see some classic console gameplay, an enormous retro build, and a couple close calls, all as I attempt to show you why Title Update 13 is the best Minecraft Xbox 360 edition has to offer. I aptly named my world Returnia, and just before I load in here, I want to bring your attention to the iconic Xbox 360 edition logo. Title Update 13 is the last time this classic 360 logo was used. From Title Update 14 onwards, it was changed to match the other legacy console versions' logos.
Oh, hell no.
Tell me that doesn't make Title Update 13 a special update already. I loaded in on day one, spotting a small village almost immediately. Before heading over there though, I punched my first tree for the millionth time since I began playing this game about 13 years ago. It seems like the number 13 has already got a lot of significance in this video. I went over to do some looting at the village I spotted, but it wasn't exactly overflowing with valuable resources. I gathered the bookshelves it had and was on my way. As I whipped my console exclusive map out to get exploring, I decided what this world's main project was going to be. First, I would need to find a jungle biome, which wouldn't be difficult considering the classic world size of Xbox 360 edition Minecraft. I also decided to change my skin to one of the classic 360 starter pack skins. While my main gingerbread skin I use today does come from the festive mashup pack that was on the 360, I wanted to use a skin from the main pack that every player starts with. And of these skins, Tuxedo Steve has always been my favorite. As night was approaching, I watched my first sunset. I was lucky enough to have found sheep earlier in the day, so I could sleep through the dreadful first night. On day 2, I carried on my search for the elusive jungle biome. Now, the reason I was looking for a jungle so desperately was because I had never up to this point in my Minecraft career made my main base inside the biome. I always found there to be too much going on. With how sparse passive mobs are to how hostile mobs don't despawn because of the shady canopies, the denseness of the biome also turned me off building in it. But my aim for these 100 days was to overcome this distaste and commit to building a base in the middle of a jungle. This brings me to my second main reason I wanted to build in the jungle biome, which has to do with Title Update 13, the update just before naturally generated structures were introduced, aside from villages of course. This meant that with no desert pyramids or jungle temples, these biomes were going to be eternally desolate. It was up to me to do a cool build in one of them, and combined with my previous reason for wanting to build in it, I chose to do a temple-esque build in the jungle biome. As I was continuing my search for said biome, I heard continuous zombie groans coming from somewhere nearby. Realizing that you can't craft mossy cobblestone in Title Update 13, I dug into the ground following the moans and growls, hoping it would lead me to some mossy treasure. And indeed, I happened upon a zombie spawner dungeon. Shortly after though, I realized I did not have the capabilities to defeat the dungeon's mobs. I did very much have the capabilities to steal the dungeon loot from above though, but with no torches and only a stone sword, I left the dugout hole behind to continue searching for the jungle, planning to come back at a later stage for the mossy cobble once construction on the jungle temple was about to start. As I traveled through the snowy tundra, I mined away at as much surface coal as I could so that I didn't run into the torchless issue again. As the snow melted away, revealing a great open plain, I finally spotted the iconic giant trees the jungle is known for. After sleeping next to my discovery, I woke up on day 3 feeling like a real Christopher Columbus, exploring the jungle to find the optimal place to clear some space for my first major jungle build in survival. Luckily, there were no inhabitants of this jungle biome, otherwise the whole Columbus metaphor would have taken a dark turn. I eventually decided that having the entrance staircase to the temple extending down to the beach cove would provide for a grandiose look to the build as you approach the shore from the sea, and I started marking out where the staircase would go. On day 4, I mapped out where the 4 corners of the temple would be, using my very rusty arithmetic with the coordinates on the map. Unfortunately, a creeper began work on excavation a little too early while I was still mapping these corners out. On day 5, I had a genuine brain aneurysm trying to figure out why the coordinates weren't matching the dimensions I had mapped out in my head. After thinking I figured it out, I went to sleep on this absolute waste of a day, and on day 6, used some shears to begin mining away at the space of this jungle I'd sectioned off. Along with hacking away at leaves, this would also include chopping down all the trees that were inside this 45 by 45 block area. Luckily, this meant I would have plenty of leaves, vines, and wood for when I would need it later on. Using some of this wood, I outlined the beginnings of the seaside cabin I would call my home while I built the jungle temple. I carried on with building the structure on day 7. I never really build with jungle wood, and while I maintain that the actual pinkish wood color is was rather gross looking, the logs themselves actually look pretty nice. I put in an oak flooring and finally got to store some of my items away, not to mention completing the important task of getting my crafting table next to my furnace. I planted some sugarcane on the coast by my cabin to ensure I didn't run into a lack of paper issue again like I did in the last 100 days installment, and not to give too much away of my favorite feature of Title Update 13, but I was going to be needing an enchantment table as soon as I had space to build one. I then crafted myself some brand new iron tools and a bit of armor. After seeing all the ocelots running around, I thought it might be cute to tame one for myself. I went fishing at sunset and on day 8 crouched around the jungle looking for an ocelot to tame, which I finally did. Trying to get her into the house was rather hilarious, and the way she would glitch up and down as I moved her around gave me the idea to name her Twitchy. Everybody meet Twitchy. I then went on a boating mission to gather some oak wood in a distant forest. I was reminded of the lovely Title Update 13 feature of your boat breaking into planks and sticks when you hit the shoreline too hard. As I was heading home, I admired the massive, intricate terrain generation of the old mountain biomes of Legacy Minecraft. Truly gorgeous. I arrived home on day 9 and once again forgot that boats are so brittle in this update. I then gave myself some more storage and noticed that damn do cats yap in Title Update 13. I hope you can get used to all that meowing over the next 90 odd days. I snazzed up my entrance a little bit and realized I could use some glass, so I descended into the ocean bank by my cabin and mined away at some sand. I saw I was running out of air, but I planned to ascend once I started taking damage, which in retrospect sounds like the beginning of every cave diving horror story, but as this was so incredibly displayed to me by the game, you can't ascend in a body of water while taking damage. This was a terrifying and unexpected feature of Title Update 13, and I had to run all the way back from spawn because I'd slept in the wild the previous night. I smashed into the shoreline of the jungle, and as I was hoping to collect my items, I got the sudden fear that if I went too far down for the rest of them, I might have the same thing happen to me. So I thought to myself, Title Update 13 probably still has that old iconic feature of early Minecraft, unwaterlogged blocks. Confidently descending to the bottom of the ocean, I placed down my front door that I tore out and got to breathe as if I were on land. Man, do I love these old features. Well, okay, then again, I wouldn't be in this situation if not for the old features, but you know. I then used this method of mine to mine away at the rest of the sand I wanted and went to sleep after a very stressful day. I used my hard-earned sand to fill in the windows of my cabin and finished off the ceiling, leaving a little of that buggy Title Update 13 lighting in my wake. I then completed the roof and I could finally call this cabin of mine a proper home. I extended the sugarcane line a bit further up the coast, and on day 11, I decided to begin my mine shaft that would head down to strip mining level, which for me in this version is Y12. You'll see why. But I didn't just want to start digging down in a staircase underneath my cabin, but rather decided to utilize the big flat cliff face across the bay as an entrance for a mine shaft. I thought this would be cute, as I would need to make a little boat trip every time I went strip mining, and Lord knows I need the boat driving practice. I'm just like SpongeBob, for real. But if I was going to be boating back and forth so often, which, oh yes, I would need to be with the amount of stone I was going to need, then I needed to have a proper dock to go out from and come back in on. So I extended some jungle logs and oak wood out into the bay, and on day 12 finished my dock, equipped with fences and long descending support pillars. I mined away at some more of the jungle I needed to clear out in order to achieve this. I had to use that ingenious breathing underwater method again too. On day 13, I ventured over to the other side of the bay after having a bit of immediate boat trouble and carved a mineshaft entrance into the cliff face. An entrance very reminiscent of the one I have in Rootland, if you remember from 100 Days of Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. I carved out a small entrance room and began the staircase downward toward Y12, finding a fair bit of ores along the way. I unfortunately at the time forgot that Y12 was my preferred mining level for Xbox 360 edition and made the small base area at the bottom of the mine at the usual Y11. Now the reason I prefer Y12 is because in Xbox 360 edition, that's where lava level is, so that when you're mining straight ahead, you're unlikely to mine into a pocket of lava, but will rather be exactly level with it as you're mining. Anyway, I'd find out I made a mistake soon enough. For the time being, I added some stairs leading down into the mine, and on day 14 began my first strip mine. I ascended back up on day 15, unfortunately diamondless. But I did, however, have a ton of stone, which I would be needing soon. On day 16, I completed my set of iron armor and descended back into the mines to gather more resources. Hopefully this diamond would be one of them. Even though lava and creepers were constantly pouring into my mining path, I still didn't fully clock yet that I was mining on the wrong Y level and just turned around to mine a shaft in a different direction. While it may be silly that I was so forgetful about the Y level, this decision did find me my first vein of diamonds. On day 18, I crafted myself my first shiny diamond tools and continued the process of clearing out my jungle space. While I was working on this 100 days, I would often find myself in VC with an old friend, Michael, who you may know from my channel or from my first 100 days video with his 5-second cameo insulting my redstone abilities.
Stuart, you don't even know how to use redstone in current Minecraft. Why do you keep collecting it?
But him and I have been friends for almost 12 years, and we played Minecraft Xbox 360 edition a lot back in the day. So having our usual back and forth while playing this version, especially Title Update Update 13, which was the version this game was in when he and I met, really felt like I could sink back into those old days when I had nothing but time on my hands to play this incredible game with my friends. On day 20, I did yet another full day of jungle deforesting. My corporate CEO arc from the beta 1.7.3 portion of this series was clearly being continued now. Maybe I should scrap the Jumble Temple idea and build a Walmart here instead. Quick shout out to the Legacy Xbox One Edition SMP server, which did exactly that in one of their world spawns. On day 21, I did even more of this deforesting and was accumulating a really large amount of resources from it. I'd never be short on jungle wood again after this. On the morning of day 22, I tried to fight an Enderman, but he was having absolutely none of my shit. He didn't anger when I looked at him, and he just teleported away when I attacked him. Didn't realize he was chill like that. I spent the rest of the day doing you guessed what, and was really starting to see how big the Speyside section dwarf really was. This was going to be an enormous project. On day 23, I finally got some of that lovely mobs don't burn at daytime treatment the jungle loves to offer. It was on this day that I finally cleared away all of the jungle in the 45 by 45 area I hoped to build in. I put away the last of my almost completely full double chest of jungle materials, and the old autosave screen popped up as it had done many times in the last 23 days. It's a feature of old Minecraft that I loved so much as a kid who always loved to exit without saving whenever I unexpectedly died in lava. On day 24, having completed the clearing in the jungle, I decided to do some world exploration. I got up close to the Mushroom Island right by my base, which would be a cool location to build on if I ever got time. I then followed the westmost side of the map all the way down to hopefully find that zombie spawner dungeon I dug up so many days ago now. When I eventually did, I was disappointed to find it empty of mobs. Couldn't even put all my new gear to use. Regardless, I gathered up that mossy cobble many on my channel know I love so much and climbed out of the hole to carry on exploring the map. My aim was to fill out the whole thing so I could proudly display it in an item frame in my house. During my time, I ran through the desert nearby the village I spawned next to and discovered some pumpkins in a spruce biome further north that I collected. I ran into another jungle after this, and I was suddenly very grateful that I ran into the northwest jungle before I ran into this one, because it was a lot smaller and less intriguing to build in. It did, however, have a small village nearby, which did have worthwhile loot in it, or at least it would have been worthwhile if I had discovered this village like 20 days ago. Now I kind of already had all this gear, and there wasn't even a brewing stand in the church I could steal. On day 26, I finally completed my trip around the world, finishing the map off just above the Mushroom Island next to my base. I then proudly displayed it above the third furnace I'd added to my base by this day. Twitchy may have not been traveling much around the world, but at least she could appreciate its beauty through this map of it. I crafted myself some stone, cobble blocks, and stairs, and built the first of the 4 staircases that would lead to the top of this temple. Title Update 13 unfortunately didn't have a lot of textures to work with when it came to stone. The only stone block variants available to craft or collect in survival were cobble, smooth stone, stone bricks, and mossy cobblestone. This meant that I was going to need to be alternating a lot with the blocks I did have and adding as much depth and additive detail later on as I could. I had a few ideas for how this would be done, but day 27 put a stop to me thinking about those plans because I realized that I had still somehow miscounted the proportions of this fucking clearing, despite taking multiple in-game days to supposedly get it right. So much for that. Anyway, I finally figured out how to count properly. Can you believe I'm doing a degree in applied maths and physics? And fix my clearing to be the correct size. On day 28, I continued building the stairway to heaven, planning to leave a space for a fairly large platform at the top center. I started thinking having my enchantment area at the top of this pyramid of stairs could be a cool idea. While working on the east staircase, I realized I wanted to keep the natural foliage as intact as possible when building this temple. This would include the overhanging trees later on in the build. Having finished this staircase on day 29, I went ahead and placed down the center platform all the staircases would connect to. Keeping the foliage by the west staircase proved to be a somewhat difficult task, but by day 30, it had been seamlessly integrated and connected to the platform. And the same with the north staircase on day 31. The view was absolutely gorgeous from atop the platform, and it was then that I realized this build would really be something special. Before beginning work on the build itself, I figured I could use some more stone from strip mining, and also collected some obsidian while I was down there for the enchantment table and any future nether portal plans. After running into yet another 2 lava lakes head on, I finally clocked that I was mining on a level too low. Side note, turning on Bedrock Fog in Xbox 360 edition adds a really eerie yet nostalgic feeling to being this low down in a cave system with all this mist around you. Anyway, I started mining at Y12 from this point forward, getting immediately rewarded with finding 3 consecutive veins of diamond. After mining air for a few seconds on day 33, I realized I had just reached the classic world-size border and had to turn around, a whole 26 diamonds richer than before I descended into this 3-day mining trip. Waking up on day 34, I noticed the unfortunate glitch that Title Update 13 had of making the map clear inside an item frame every time you leave and rejoin the world. I was very happy to discover that this was in fact a glitch and I didn't need to re-explore the entire overworld world though. I was thinking that after all my jungle clearing that the two sections of the area on water had lost their thickness quite a bit, so I thought I'd grow a large jungle tree in each of those sections. I then crafted some beautiful new diamond tools and a bit of diamond armor, along with that enchantment table I was mining obsidian for. On day 35, my jungle trees had grown and, along with some extra leaves, provided a bit more foliage to obscure the view of the temple slightly. I then equipped my 4 stone blocks, one of which being the mossy cobble I had to mine to build with, and began the foundational structure of the temple. I planned to have 2 large L shapes running around the perimeter of the square plot, one above the other. I'm probably not explaining myself very well, but you'll see what I mean in due course. On day 35, I finished the southwest corner of the wall and cleared some foliage to make way for the soon-to-be placed wall in the northwest corner of the clearing, which I began filling in on day 37. But I noticed because of the fairly large cave below, this section of the base wall was going to take a while to fill in. While doing this on day 38, I added some pieces of broken wall using blocks and slabs around the cave to give the impression that the temple had been embedded this deep for quite some time. On day 39, I added some dirt elevation detail to the main entrance of the temple and finished off that enormous northwest section of the wall. On day 40, I continued with this wall into the northeast section of the clearing, making sure to spread small pockets of the short supply of mossy cobble I had around the entire perimeter. I was once again being careful to keep the foliage as intact as possible too. I finished off this section of the wall on day 41, and on day 42 began building the last quadrant of the temple. On day 43, I decided to take a short break from the temple building and rode over to the mineshaft entrance to give it a proper dock like I had outside my cabin. Or actually, it was going to be even better than that one. I wanted it to feel like multiple people from different parts of the world all traveled and docked here to use this mineshaft. I slept on the dock while I was still building it, and on day 44 decided to extend the mineshaft entrance upwards slightly, as I felt it looked a little squashed when viewing it from across the bay. Plus, it allowed me to use a little more of that enormous flat cliff face I had available to me. Looking at it from my cabin reassured me that this was the right move. I added some storage and a crafting table to the mineshaft entrance and added the required wooden fences, slabs, stairs, and fence gates to finish off the mineshaft dock. The whole area seemed a lot more official now. As the sun was beginning to set, and as I already happened to be here, I decided to just go for another mining mission to collect more stone. I got into the habit of starting all my new mining trips 1 block above the area I had already dug out. This mining trip took me into day 45, where I noticed that the autosave feature had a cute detail of a nighttime exclusive background when it occurred during an in-game night. Seeing the classic 360 edition panorama background in the dark lit up by the lights of the tutorial world was really sweet. I resurfaced on day 46, having so many materials to carry back that I needed 2 trips to do it. I then made the elaborate furnace system I had in my cabin even more elaborate by shoving another into the floor, making it accessible with a wooden slab, because unfortunately you can't click through a stair block in this version. On day 47, I continued building the southeast quadrant of the temple and finished it off on day 48. I then started adding the L shapes the perimeter would have along the south staircase, connecting that up to the top platform on day 49. I repeated this along the sides of the east staircase, finishing that on day 50, after messing up proportions again. On day 51, I built the same structure along the east staircase, and on day 52, as you can probably guess, completed the sides of the north staircase, which now hopefully gives you some idea of how the shape of this temple will turn out. I also used some dirt to shape out where I wanted the walls to connect. On day 53, I lit up the underneath of the temple structure so that no mobs started spawning underneath me while I was working on the build. I then began filling in the floor of the first level of the temple. I decided to leave the flooring of the inside of it for later though, as I wanted the main structure to be completed first. And hell no, I ain't filling all that dirt below the first floor. Fuck that. On day 54, I continued filling in the floor with this alternating stone pattern and descended into the mines that night to collect more stone from the ground beneath me, exploring some more of those creepy foggy caves on day 55. I ascended from the mines later that night, and on day 56, I messed around with the jagged castle-esque style for the top side of the walls, landing on a block slab block pattern. I also finished off the flooring of the lower southeast quadrant, and that night added some lighting to it. On day 57, I thickened up the platform a bit and added an enchantment table to the dead center of the build. I built a semicircle of bookshelves around it, all of which I had collected from the village near spawn, and used the sugarcane I had been harvesting to craft the remaining bookshelves I needed to get level 30 enchantments. Now, unfortunately, in Title Update 13, if you use a level 30 enchantment, you can say goodbye to all 30 levels. This has its pros and cons. It feels a lot more important and special to get a level 30 enchantment, but sometimes it feels you can get a pretty mid enchantment for all those levels you work so hard for, like I just did, getting only efficiency 3 and being reduced to a measly 11 levels of XP. You will soon learn, however, that efficiency on a pickaxe is a lot more useful in Title Update 13 than you might think. As night was beginning to fall, I built up a few pillars of stone around the enchanting area to be able to light it up a bit. I realized realized that the days were going by far too quickly if I hoped to get the entire temple's exterior and interior complete all within the next 43 days. But on the other hand, mobs at night might prove to be an issue to deal with, and I didn't mind taking care of the occasional zombie or skeleton, but I could not afford a creeper setting my work back by sneaking up on me. So I cast my line out by the dock and reeled in some raw fish to tame 1 or 2 ocelots to keep me safe from this creeper threat. Everyone meet Black Cat and Orange Cat. They may not have names, but you're going to be hearing a lot of them in the remaining 43 days. Now, I had never actually used cats to keep me safe from creepers, so I was really hoping that they were effective at this. Anyway, I began work on the first floor's wall face, outlining one of the 4 entrances I decided would be in each corner of the first floor. I crafted some iron doors to add to this entranceway, as well as some detail using staircases. By that evening, I had finished the wall of this quadrant, and to add some depth to the pretty flat wall face, I dug out some holes I would hope to make into iron-barred windows, and put some block and stair detailing above and below them to give it some depth. After adding some iron bars into these holes, along with a bit more detail, I thought it looked pretty good, especially after connecting it up to the second story parapet, which I added a little detail to also. I then began work on the southeast flooring and parapet. Nighttime was turning out to be a useful building feature, not just because of the additional time to build, but also so that I could remember to light everything up properly. If you paid attention to the first time I did this, each of these quadrants is going to look a little repetitive building-wise, so I'll do my best to not repeat myself. So I carried on working on this section into day 60, but after nearing the end of completion, I ran out of stone again. As day 61 began, I found myself descending into the mines. Excited to finally show off this incredible Title Update 13 feature. Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you. The efficiency enchantment works on all blocks in this update when equipped on a pickaxe, including wood too. It was just easiest to display this incredible bug on dirt. Now you'll see I switch back to using a shovel for dirt and gravel after showing this off, but that's just because this pickaxe only has efficiency 3 equipped with no unbreaking. If I'm lucky enough to get an efficiency 4 unbreaking 3 pickaxe before this playthrough is over, I could discard all of my other tools. No axe, shovel, or shears would be necessary because of how long unbreaking 3 lasts. And again, only in Title Update 13 of Minecraft Xbox 360 Edition could I ever have a hotbar that looks like that. Back on the surface on day 62, I continued work on the first floor of the temple, with my cats keeping me safe. As the sun rose on day 63, I finished the southwest quadrant and began work on the first floor of the northwest, which proved to be a delicate task as I had to remove only the necessary foliage to fit the parapet in. Otherwise, I wanted to keep the greenery as intact as possible, as you well know by now. I continued working as rain came pelting down from above, managing to complete this quadrant's flooring that evening. Honestly though, I just couldn't handle how loud the rain was in this update, especially without a sound toggle for the noise specifically, so I had to sleep through the night to get rid of it. On day 64, I continued work on the northwest quadrant, and while I wasn't interrupted by another rainstorm, I did catch a creeper trying to sneak up on me that night. It is absolutely hilarious how fast it hightailed it into the jungle when it spotted my cats. I'm not used to seeing mobs move that fast. And the cats were going for the fucking kill too. Minecraft providing some lore on why ancient Egyptians treated them like gods. I did a little bit of fishing on the morning of day 65 to reward my cats for their hard work. Just kidding, it's all for me. I'm a hardworking man, you know, what can I say? Gotta have all that protein for building these walls, all long into the night and shit. By day 66, I was already working on the final quadrant of the first floor. Being able to work through the night really was saving a lot of time. I spent a large portion of the day mountain hopping to find myself some food, which was a nice excuse to explore the mountain biome across the bay. I then descended into the mines that evening, encountering tons of creepers trying to get revenge on me for embarrassing their homie with my cats. Speaking of cats, I heard a familiar meow while mining, and was incredibly surprised to find that Orange Cat had teleported down here for absolutely no reason. He was still sitting, even. Yet another legendary Title Update 13 bug. Unfortunately, I had to let go of my beautiful Efficiency 3 pickaxe, and on my way out of the mine, I grabbed my curious cat and brought him back to the surface. On day 68, I used 30 hard-earned levels to try to get that ultimate enchantment on my pickaxe, and I got halfway there with getting Efficiency 4. One day, I'll get that Unbreaking 3. I then go back to work in the northeast quadrant. As thundering rain came down from the heavens, I decided to do a little creeper hunting with my cats, just to troll. I then completed the first floor's flooring on day 69, and I then completed the first floor's flooring. Why is it? I then completed the first floor's flooring on day 69. I'm sorry, it just sounds so silly. I then completed the first floor. How about that? Stuart, try that next time. I then completed the first floor on day 69 and had largely completed the accompanying wall by the end of the day. God, building the parapets with these fucking cats teleporting up so often was so infuriating. By the morning of day 70, the entire first floor of the temple and the wall connected to it was complete. For convenience sake, I outlined an inner flooring too, but told myself I would get to this giant interior when I felt like I had more time on my hands. That night, I began work on the second floor, which had a lot less flooring to fill it. Thankfully, this temple gets easier and easier to build the longer I work on it, as the size of it just keeps shrinking. I decided I wanted to house nether portals in the actual structure of the temple, like inside the walls themselves, so I thought the second floor would be a good place to implement this idea. I wanted to keep the symmetry of the temple intact, but 8 nether portals sounded absolutely insane to me, so I decided to have the south and north walls of the temple have 2 nether portals each, with the east and west walls having a similar window design to the first floor. I messed around with different exterior designs and landed on a look I quite liked. Having a darker color in the build definitely worked well, and it would look even cooler once the portals were lit. After working through the night, I added some second-story parapet lighting and had to descend into the mines once again to gather more stone. Luckily, I was blessed with this beautiful efficiency 4 pickaxe and felt like I was hardly doing any work. I found strip mining like this was one of the easiest ways to get my XP back up in this version. All the coal and redstone gave tons of it, even if I didn't really have any intention of using the redstone itself. My pickaxe had done an incredible job by the end of this 3-day mining trip, filling up my inventory with stone and replenishing much of my XP. Unfortunately, at the cost of its life. RIP Efficiency 4. You will be missed. But you did not go out in vain. Okay, I was starting to feel bad about constantly fishing, frying, and eating fish in front of my hardworking cats, so I decided to save them some as a little treat. Not for Twitchy though, she doesn't do shit. While I was excited to be working with a new block for once in this build, misplacing obsidian was definitely not a fun detour I had to take, especially with my efficiency pickaxe gone. On day 76, I finished mirroring the design of the left face of the temple on the right side, even getting to work on the third floor a little, plus the lighting thereof once night fell. On day 77, I decided to use my 30 levels of enchantment on something else for once, getting one of the most badass diamond swords I've ever seen. I then began work on the north half of the temple's second floor, which I was making good progress with as the night was coming to a close. You remember how that Enderman was completely uninterested in me on day 22, even after looking at him and attacking him? Yeah, well, turns out he just had a 55-day delay on his response time, as an Enderman started attacking me out of nowhere, completely unprompted. He chickened out again before I could give him a proper fight though. I kept hard at work on day 78, finishing the third floor and its parapets, as well as all the walls below them, being careful to match the depth detail on the windows and the doorways with the ones I had done already. The obsidian should have been the final touch, but I was short a few, so I had to go set out to get some more. Not before being jumped by a creeper just as I had sat my cats down. Not only that, but I had to let it explode on me lest my knockback sword propelled it back onto the land. Bastard. I collected the remaining obsidian I needed on day 79 and satisfyingly placed the last blocks of the main exterior structure of the jungle temple. Boy, that was a good feeling. I wasn't fully convinced by the tip of the temple though. I wanted to keep it as open to the sky as possible, as the Aztec pyramid usually did, and I drew a fair amount of inspiration from those when making this build, but ultimately this is a jungle temple, not a jungle pyramid. It didn't need to have an open roof. So I started designing a covering ceiling above the enchanting platform. I was still trying too hard to keep it open at the top though. On day 80, I really locked in on making it a full-on roof, with maybe keeping the center block open for some dramatic lighting on the enchantment table. So I kept building up the temple roof with blocks, stairs, and slabs, installing a gold ring in the ceiling to accentuate the mythical vibe of this enchanting platform. While in the mythical spirit, I went ahead and lit up the nether portals to add some color to the temple, and took a look at it from a distance in the bay. I loved how everything had come together, but I still wasn't all too convinced on the gazebo-type build I had added on the top. So I changed some details to improve it, like filling in the slits and adding some more stair and slab details on the outside and inside. This, I think, added a much more sturdier vibe to the whole top of the build. Backing up to the bay, I could look at it and feel like it was actually embedded in the temple structure as opposed to lightly sitting on top of it, like it felt like it was the previous day. I really enjoyed approaching the temple from the water. I was so happy with how it had all come together. After admiring it for the rest of the day, there were a few more important details I wanted to add. First, to accentuate the mystic vibe up in the enchanting area, I stuck up some redstone torches in the ceiling. Second, I added some stone buttons randomly about the walls and staircases of the temple to give it that little bit more depth and detail. Third, holy shit, do your job, cats. Why the hell didn't that creeper not give a fuck? Damn. Actually, before I get into that third detail addition, I had a bit more mining to do. Seeing as I would now definitely have time for the interior of the temple, I would need to fill in those floors at some point, especially that enormous gaping hole I would one day call the first floor. My plan was to stay down here and collect as much stone as I feasibly could, but with my mining speed being slowed down a lot by the lack of efficiency 4 on my pickaxe, I found myself mining through the whole rest of this day, day 83, and into day 84, during which I stumbled upon another zombie spawner. Been a while since I've seen one of these guys, but boy oh boy was I chuffed to have the extra mossy cobble. While mining away at this, I happened to notice a creeper swimming down the stream behind me, and when I went to kill it before it exploded on me, Could have a better choice of words, Stuart. And when I went to kill it before it killed me, I noticed that the knockback on my sword can propel the enemy so fast and so far, even to the point of glitching through blocks. It looked like I just incinerated it out of this world. Pretty cool. Anyway, after resurfacing and shoving as much collected stone into my 4 furnaces as I could, I began the last exterior detail I wanted to add: vines and leaves. I felt this would bring a bit more color to the build while also embedding it into the jungle some more. Plus it added to that ancient vibe the temple had. I tried to shape the leaves so that it looked like giant crawling vines were slithering onto the build. I also added some sections of leaves that were hanging off the corners and edges of the walls, which worked quite well, I think. I also added some actual vines on top of these alternating oak and jungle leaves to add to the droopy vibe. This really felt like the loose, free part of the building process, as I could abandon all of the instincts I had to make over the last 80-odd days to keep things symmetrical. The thick foliage I left hanging over onto the temple from the forest really helped sell the natural overgrowth vibe. I particularly liked the final clumps of greenery I added drooping over the top of the temple. The next day, I decided I wanted the entrance to feel a bit more grandiose, and I thought some pillars with fire coming out the top would do the trick perfectly. So using that good old stone block palette, as well as some mossy cobble I had luckily found some more of, I built up 2 pillars on either side of the south entrance, with dirt in place of netherrack for now, and iron bars lining the sides so that the fire would still be kind of visible from below. I added a couple vines to both of them, and I was really happy with how they turned out. The right one looked more excavated from the ground as it still had its thick base visible, while the left was more entrenched in the dirt. However, it was clearly missing a vital element: netherrack. Plus, with the scarce options for lighting in Title Update 13, I was probably going to want to use glowstone at some point on the interior of the build. Seriously, my options were torches, glowstone, lava, and fire. I guess redstone and redstone torches technically emit light, but you know. Anyway, excited to finally utilize these portals of mine, I packed away all my unnecessary items and delved into the Minecraft Xbox 360 Edition Nether. Barren, ominous, and full of netherrack. Just as I remembered. Almost immediately, the eerie and melancholic nether soundtrack faded in. I dug into the netherrack to collect some and found a nearby pocket of glowstone to mine into, which turned out to be a more dangerous task than I thought. But with an incredible shot of my bow, I deflected the ghast fireball mid-air right back into him. I also looked around to see if there was an easily accessible lava lake about, but I couldn't see any nearby. It looked like I spawned quite high up. Having gotten what I came for though, I killed a magma slime near the portal and went home. Having the necessary netherrack, I was ready to ignite the entrance pillars when a creeper began to approach me. The idiot had no idea what it was in for. My cats would immediately put a stop to— okay, they did nothing. Wow, okay. Apparently they have to be standing to scare creepers off. Undeterred though, I continued lighting the pillars as the sun started to peak above the horizon. The final product looked magnificent. Truly, I could now call the exterior of the jungle temple complete. And with 13 days to spare, now I had to begin work on the crater also known as the first floor. Alternating smooth stone, cobblestone, mossy cobble, and stone bricks, I slowly but surely made my way across the expansive room, making sure to light the floor with torches as I went. Don't worry, these are far from permanent. I had 2 of the other forms of lighting in this version more in mind for lighting up this floor. Man, filling in these last stone blocks and being able to move around freely in here felt amazing. Only took almost 2 days of work. Next up, I had a much less daunting task of filling in floor 2. I took a break to enchant a new pickaxe once again, and wouldn't you know it, I finally got the perfect enchantment. Efficiency 4, Unbreaking 3. Now the reason I didn't immediately throw my other tools away at this point was because I forgot how long it feels like these tools last with Unbreaking 3. As for the second floor, I finished it all up before the day was over, even with this enchanting break I took. Now, however, I had the issue of the interiors not looking very structurally sound, or even visually appealing for that matter. So I started installing some arch shapes into the ceiling to feel like the ceiling was being held upright. After working on this for a little bit, I ran out of stone again. Looks like that 3-day mining trip didn't quite cut it. But after descending into the mines with my absolutely broken pickaxe, cleaving through dirt and stone like butter, before the day was even over, I made it to the world border, although I had far from a full inventory of stone. Not thinking I would need that much more to complete the interior, oh how naive I was, I resurfaced and got back to work. By day 90, the support beams and arches were installed in the second floor, and I also placed down some glowstone to use as lighting. I wasn't completely sold on the idea I had at the time for the center of the room, so I told myself I'd get back to it as I had bigger fish to fry. There was a room 10 times the size of this one downstairs I needed to fix up as well. I created some archways in the corners leading to the iron door entrances, and decided to do a similar but larger couple of arches on each face of the room. These larger arches would extend toward the middle of the room, hopefully connecting with whatever structure I decided to put in the middle. I also used some slabs to hide the nether portals peeking through the ceiling. By day 91, I had finally completed one of these enormous arches. I was going to be needing more stone if I planned to do 4 of these though, so I swiftly mined away my crafting table with my pickaxe. hell yeah, and used said pickaxe down in the mines to once again obliterate a path ahead of me. I filled my inventory with cobble blocks and vowed to have each one filled by the end of the trip. Mining through falling gravel was a different kind of satisfying. The worst part of strip mining was made effortless without even having to switch tools. Near the end of day 92, my inventory was completely stacked with cobble, and I smelted a bunch of it into smooth stone, and after that incredibly efficient mining trip, finally clocked that I no longer needed my shovel or axe clogging up my inventory. Look at this gorgeously neat hotbar of mine. Really puts the heart in hotbar. No? Okay. I made my way up to the enchanting platform to use all of my levels on an awesome bow enchantment, but unfortunately I ended up with only power 4, which made my bow pack a good punch, but I was hoping for a little more flair. At least now every tool I needed I had in my hotbar and was now enchanted. I continued with the artwork on day 93, paying close attention to match the shape and style of the first one I built, intricately placing all the stairs and slabs that added a great amount of detail to the build. I finished the final arch and the corners above the entrances later that day. By day 94, the interior detail on the iron-barred windows was also complete. Things were Things were looking a lot less gloomy in here with all the torches on the walls, but there was still a lot of room to fill in the center. So I began curving all the arches I'd built downward to meet at a certain point in the middle. I left holes in the ceiling while making the design of the structure, as I wanted to have lava pouring in from above, pooling in together in a circular basin at the center of the jungle temple. I made sure that the center pillar this basin would be built around was thick and sturdy, and had a good amount of detail to it. It was kind of the center point of all the weight of this temple after all. I connected the arches to the center pillar using a combination of slabs and stairs to make the gradients of each archway as smooth as possible. By the end of the day, I felt I had accomplished all I could do with these arches. Any more detail would just be excessive. I then crafted a different stone block variant to use for once, stone slabs. Now, the reason I never included these as one of the options for stone block variants to use is because they're technically not a stone block, and even in their full block form, they don't really match the exterior well. They do, however, work very well as a material to make up the 2B lacent lava. Wow. They do, however, work very well as the material to make up the 2B lava basin. I then began the daunting task of trying to light up as much of this floor as I could. My plan was to use glowstone and lava for everything except the walls, so I messed around with embedding some glowstone in the basin, in the ceiling, and in the floor. I landed on keeping a couple in the basin, but mainly using floor glowstone lighting to keep things bright in here. By adding stairs around them, it made the strange blocks feel more embedded in the floor. With everything being rather lit up down here, I had one more thing to do: get lava. With the amount I was going to need for the basin, I figured it would be most sensible going to the nether, so I crafted myself an inventory's worth of buckets and stepped through one of my 4 portals, realizing now that it is a little overkill. I can't help that it looks cool though. After venturing further out into the nether wastelands, I realized I'd be fairly screwed if I forgot where my portal was. But with the netherworld being 8 times smaller as the classic sized overworld, I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. I quickly stumbled across a triple combo: a nether fortress, a field of soul sand and netherwort, and the dark, imposing bedrock wall that only the nether in Minecraft Xbox 360 Edition's legacy world sizes have. After mining up a bit of the soul sand, I noticed a lava lake another ground level below me. Unsure of how to get there safely, I analyzed all the possible ways down and decided, whoa, okay, thank God I didn't die from that. Not to mention, at least I landed on land and not in the lava right next to it. It definitely sounded like I broke both my legs with that old damage taking sound effect, but I quickly found safety in the walls surrounding the lava lake and waited for my health to regenerate. Afterwards, I filled up my inventory with lava buckets. Nerd pulling back up to where I was with cobblestone, I was desperately hoping a ghast didn't suddenly spawn nearby. For the sake of interest, I decided to explore the nether fortress, which also gave me the chance to see this awesome bedrock wall up close. After getting stuck between an angry ghast and a swarm of blazes, I decided to end my little fortress field trip early and head back to the portal, hopefully still in one piece. Despite the many ghasts I had to deal with on the way, I made it back safely, all to the tune of one of those awesome nether songs. Home sweet fucking home. It felt amazing to be back. I placed the lava in the 4 holes I left in the ceiling and filled in as much of the basin as I could. I realized I would need even more lava if I wanted to make the basin have a nice even level of it, but absolutely no way in hell was I going back to the nether for that. So I descended into the mines to find one of the many lava pockets I had strip mined through in the past. On my way home from the quick mineshaft trip, I embarrassingly discovered that you can't do drive-by shootings from a boat without also breaking the boat. On day 97, I placed down an inventory's worth of lava into the basin, but it still somehow wasn't enough. I had to make 2 more trips back down to the mineshaft to 2 different lava pockets to satisfy the seemingly insatiable lava basin I wanted to build. Finally though, the lava level evened out and I had the beautiful, bright orange basin I had been wanting. Unfortunately, I was left with a comical amount of lava in my inventory, but before throwing it away, I had an idea. The second floor still needed a little bit of decorating, and maybe I could include a lava feature in that too. On day 98, I set up a small netherwort farm on each side of the room, lining it with stairs to make them fit into the space well. I then wanted a ring of upside down stairs as the table in the center of this room. And because you could only place a stair upside down from placing it below the block above it in this update, I had to go through this insanely elaborate building operation to successfully do that. I then placed 9 of the lava buckets I had left in a ring underneath these upside down stairs to have a little ambient lava lighting in the room. Now, because stairs are seen as one block by this game, the lava didn't actually emit any light, but I still think the effect looked cool as hell. I then placed a nether storage chest on top of the table and grabbed all the nether related items from my completely disorganized storage system in my cabin to place them in this nether chest, when I noticed those pumpkin heads I mined up a while ago. Added with the fact that I had tons of iron to spare, I decided it would be a fun idea to have 2 iron golems roaming around the cavernous first floor, adding to the ethereal vibe of the jungle temple. I then came to the unfortunate conclusion that a great final addition to this temple would be some brewing stands in the second floor, which obviously would go very well with the current decor of the room. Thanks to that church in the second village I found not having a brewing stand in it, I would need to make another mission to hell. I grabbed a cauldron and water bucket on the off chance that I could cheat my way into having an emergency water source in the nether, but after getting the lovely opportunity to test it out, this helpful feature had evidently not been added into the game yet. After killing a ghast and scaling the nether fortress walls, I decided to use the save game feature just before turning the corner to confront the blaze spawner. Just in case I were to perish, at least I could use a useful feature Legacy Minecraft had. But as it turns out, it wasn't that difficult at all. I got 5 blaze rods for 2 hearts, probably thanks to the looting 3 on my awesome sword, but still, good trade. With ghast fireballs blasting around me, I ran back to my portal and made it home safely. I woke up on day 99 knowing I had a few additions to make before the world tour the next day. For convenience, I added some crafting tables and furnaces in the nether room. I then added the 4 hard-earned brewing stands to the room as well, and with that, the jungle temple in its entirety was officially complete. I took the afternoon off to boat around the bay to get a good look at this marvelous creation of mine from all sides, taking a look at it from within the jungle as well. I really enjoyed my time building in the jungle biome. It wasn't anywhere near as hazardous as I thought it would be, especially with my feline friends scaring off the creepers. The vibrancy of the grass, trees, and bushes also added a lot to my otherwise pretty pale build. Overall, I think I've been missing out on building in the jungle, and I think I've also been missing out on playing Title Update 13 more. It's an incredibly unique and fun update of an incredibly iconic version of Minecraft. I hope this video has shown that to you, and that if you have access to your old 360 or an emulator for the game, that you can join me in this experience. I woke up on day 100, ready for my usual world tour, which if you don't know, I switch into real-time commentary for, dropping this voiceover in favor of that. Alright, the time has come for the infamous world tour that I do at the end of each of these 100 days on the beautiful 100th day in Minecraft Xbox 360 edition, of course, Title Update 13. I'm really proud of what I've done in this 100 days. I really, throughout it, thought I may have overestimated how much I could get done with this beautiful big temple thing, but as it turns out, it was just enough time. Obviously, I had to work through the majority of the nights. I would say like maybe 60, 70 of the days I worked through the night, which is a new thing for me. Usually I just sleep through the night because I don't want to bother with monsters, but it's the only way I could manage to make that pyramid. Temple, pyramid, whatever. This is the cabin, which is still actually my home. Usually what I do is build the cabin, build the thing I actually want to build, and then move in. But something about this pyramid temple thing, I want to give it a proper name, so let me think for a second. I don't know, jungle temple, obviously, you know. I guess I could call it a jungle temple. I just don't want to associate it with that tiny little fucking cobblestone thing, you know, that the game auto makes. Anyway, usually I would move in, but this feels too much like a monument, this jungle temple. And so I don't really feel like homey inside there. It feels like more like it's built for a purpose, and that purpose isn't to live in. It feels like you know how the Aztecs built the pyramids for the gods, you know, and stuff like that. That's kind of what it feels like. So this is where I live. This is my cabin where I live. Apologies for the door sound effects and the cat sound effects and the nether portal sound effects. When I walk through them, they're going to be quite loud, I imagine. But that's just because the people who made this version did not bother with the levels, the audio levels. It's pretty small in here. Got a lot of furnaces though for all the stone I had to smelt. I got my storage system over here. This is also the most untidy a world of mine has been in terms of storage, just because again I didn't move into a place and I thought I would, so these chests are just staying here. this is the map of my world, which of course, because it's Xbox 360 edition and it's a classic world, you can fit the whole world onto one map. And I really, really like that about this this version. Of course, it doesn't fill the item frame, like it doesn't fill a block anymore. I mean, yet, when you put a map in, but it's cool that you still can. And then before we get to the jungle temple, let's take a look at across the bay here. I've obviously got my little jetty, and then across the bay we have the mining, which you can also see the temple in the background as you leave, which is pretty cool. We have the mining area. I'm not going to go in. I'm probably not even going to get out of my boat, but I just wanted to show it because I think it's really cool that it feels like its own separate little area, which I think makes sense, you know, because I didn't want to just dig straight down like into the ground over there. I thought there was this nice big flat face that I could work with, and it works really well from a distance and up close. But it looks very, very nice, especially at nighttime from my little cabin. So I'm a big fan. And then of course you get the beautiful view on the boat. Yeah, it's nice to approach the build on water like this, which of course was the plan. I kind of set up the staircase so that you approach it on water, and you know, you land on the shore here, and you're like, oh my god, it looks so imposing with these big pillars of fiery, you know, these big fiery pillars. And this took forever. Obviously you've seen that. I've got my two little cats here who guarded me against, excuse the cave noise, who guarded me against the creepers at nighttime because I had to work through the night, which probably made all the recordings sound like meow meow. And then we've got 4 entrances around the base here, and some greenery overlaying all the you know, the sides, just to give it some texture and some life, which I think it's done quite well. As you can see, especially some of this. What I tried to do is make sure I keep whatever greenery was hanging over already. I would just like cut where it was necessary to put this flooring, but I would leave everything above it natural so that it like sort of, you know, feels like it's grown in. But yeah, and we got 4 different staircases. Only one of them really leads to a convenient entrance. But on the bottom floor, we have probably kind of the most useless area, but it looks cool, which is the big sort of 4 arches leading to this big lava pool. And we got our 2, oh my god, don't commit suicide. We got our 2 iron golems wandering around here, having a good time. Please don't jump in, oh my, you're making me very nervous. And yeah, I think it's cool to see them in game in a location where I know I won't lose them, and they can wander around here and just sort of add to the vibe of the mysterious temple. And yeah, I think, you know, maybe there's something more I could do with these sorts of areas, and if you have any suggestions, please comment them. But I'm not upset about this being sort of a monument to, you know, whatever. And we got some mossy cobble from the dungeons, because you can't craft it in this version, so I'm glad I have some mossy cobble. And then you go up to the next layer, which is the nether layer, and the further you go up, the more you can see around your surroundings, which I think is really neat. Like the Mushroom Island over here, and if I do another 100 days in this world, I think I might try and build some sort of like temple on the top of that, some sort of like maybe sun altar or something, so that you could, you know, see each other from the peaks of the respective temples. And yeah, so this also has some greenery growing over it, which I think looks nice. And then you go in, and we've got the sort of, I guess, nether area. Again, sorry about the portal sound effect, because there's 4 nether portals, because I want to make things even, but also because we got the nether wart growing here, and the brewing stands, which are pretty intense to get. And then it's just like a nether storage. This is the only organized storage I have, is the nether storage over here. Yeah, and then the last, wow, this is I guess kind of an embarrassingly short tour. Not embarrassing because I didn't do anything. Obviously I built this enormous fucking thing, but usually I build like a bunch of small things, and I only built like 2 or 3 small things and then this huge temple. So Showing it off is pretty quick because it's not incredibly detailed on the inside in terms of like different rooms. Obviously, I did put a lot of effort into the detail, but yeah, it's easy to tour, I guess. And then over here we have the big dome, which is also the peak of the pyramid, and the enchanting room. And we've got some nether torches for the eerie vibe of I mean, not nether torches, redstone torches for the eerie vibe of the magical enchantment area, and then a gold ring, just because, you know, something, praying to the gods, whatever. And then one gap in the middle, because I felt like paying a tiny homage to, you know, what inspired this, which is the Aztec pyramids. Obviously, it's not exactly in the same style, but that's kind of the inspiration, and so I wanted to make sure that there was an opening to the sky, because they would have done a lot more of an opening. The Aztec pyramids usually are just flat on the top, I think, so they can do their sacrificing, whatever, straight to the sun gods. But I felt like doing a dome, but I made sure to keep a gap in the middle, which has been really nice actually, because it makes this sort of glowing effect on the enchantment table, which I think is fun. But yeah, I mean, there isn't really much else to showcase, which is you know, unfortunate in one way, but also impressive in another, that I spent so long on this one build and it actually worked out. So I'm very happy with it. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And and in my hotbar, you can see that I have an enchanted sword, an enchanted pickaxe, and an enchanted bow. And you're wondering, like, how do you not have more enchanted stuff if you just skip to the world tour? And well, the thing is, Minecraft Xbox 360 edition didn't specify, like, or title update 13 didn't specify when you have efficiency 4, it's 4 certain blocks. Like, it's got to be for stone because it's a pickaxe. It's just efficiency 4 on everything. So I don't actually need an axe or a shovel, because this mines wood and dirt and stuff with efficiency 4. So that's pretty cool. And then yeah, these were just my weapons. But yeah, this has been the Jungle Temple world in 100 Days of Minecraft Xbox 360 edition. This is not fair. This isn't even a book. This isn't. What does that even mean? What? You've set it in motion. Is it something to do with this monument? Oh my. There's fire at the base. There's lava underneath. There's mossy cobble underneath as well. Redstone, torches, and a gold block ring. Oh, I just made a giant... Holy shit. What the fuck was that? Why am I underground? I've never spawned underground before. What is going on? Hello? What's that? Oh my god. Oh my god, that's me. That's me from my time in beta. Oh my... I knew it. I made it back here. What the hell's happening? What? Ah, I was so close.